Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, Mrs. May is on a whirlwind tour of Europe. Yes, she's been to The Hague to meet the Dutch Prime Minister. She's been to Berlin to meet, of course, the German Chancellor, Merkel. Tonight, she is in Brussels. She's going to meet Mr. Juncker and probably Mr. Tusk as well. Now, in crisis, it's always very dangerous for British Prime Ministers to go overseas because within the last couple of hours, we hear rumours and stories that Graham Brady, yes, him, the chairman of the 1922 committee, has been seen walking up Downing Street. And the ERG, who, of course, were made ever so slightly fools of the other week, say that the 48 letters are in, that there's going to be, a motion of confidence on Mrs. May within her own party. But add to that what Shadow Brexit Minister Jenny Chapman said to LBC's Eddie Mair a couple of hours ago.
It's going to happen, Eddie. It's on its way.
Well, so it's Christmas.
Well, that's true. Yes, I think the vote of confidence will probably come before Santa does, if I can put it that way.
So there you are. Labour are seeking to put forward a motion of no confidence in not just the Prime Minister, but the government, and that's an important point. So regardless of whether 48 letters have come in, this would be a motion of no confidence on the government. Now, I remember years and years ago, Mrs. Thatcher trying to get a motion of no confidence on Jim Callaghan, took 3 attempts, but in the end, there was a majority vote, and the fact that Callaghan lost led directly to a general election. But it isn't quite as simple anymore. So to work through this process, LBC's Matthew Thompson is going to give me a hand. Matthew, good evening and welcome. So how does the Labour Party get a motion of confidence vote on the government on the order paper next week?
Well, since the days of Callaghan and Thatcher, as you were just saying, Nigel, things have changed drastically, and they changed with the bringing in of what's called the Fixed Term Parliaments Act, which now...
And this was Clegg and Cameron,
It was. This was 2011 this came in.
Yeah.
And it has changed everything, really, in terms of how no confidence votes are conducted through the House of Commons. According to the Act, there are essentially two means to get a general election. You either have a two-thirds majority of the House votes for one, or a motion of no confidence is passed by the House. Now, that motion is very, very specific. It is actually written down in statute now what that motion has to say. The Labour Party, according to convention rather than statute, are the only ones who can actually force the issue on a no confidence vote. The government only has to, by convention, according to Erskine May, the sort of government, the Bible that governs all of the House of Commons parliamentary procedure, only the official opposition's tabled no confidence motion is accepted by the government.
That means the Labour Party.
That means the Labour Party, and that's why you've seen the SNP, the Green Party, the Liberal Democrats sort of trying to rally and put pressure on the Labour Party to table this thing, because the only one that the government has to actually sort of step aside for and move aside its own business for is one by the official opposition. Anyone else, the SNP, the Green Party, the Liberal Democrats, they could put it on the order papers perhaps, but the government wouldn't be obliged to timetable it. And it's the government that controls all the timetabling in the House of Commons.
So the answer is actually
ignore it.
That in these circumstances, Labour will be able to do this.
They will. And actually, if they do table it, the government has to, not immediately, they are allowed to prioritise some of their own business, but there's a phrase that they have to do it within find a reasonably early day.
And Jenny Chapman says before Santa arrives.
Before Christmas.
And Parliament goes into recess on the 20th, I think it is.
Indeed. Well, there was even talk about going into recess earlier now that they're not having the vote, that perhaps they'll just go home early, but there's perhaps not thought to be...
I think the country wouldn't right at the moment. No.
That was one of the things circling in the Whip's office.
So let's assume, given what you just said, that they're able to get this vote next week. If they were to get a majority in the Commons, and who knows with the DUP feeling in the mood they're currently feeling in, let alone how Jacob Rees-Mogg feels about his own government at the moment. And as I say, regardless whether it's Mrs. May, this would be a motion of no confidence in Her Majesty's government. If they got a majority of one vote, let's say, what then happens?
Well, then under the Fixed-Term Parliaments Act, you enter a strange period where there is 14 days during which either you can proceed to a general election or someone has to get a second motion passed. And that motion, again, is very specific. It simply says that this House has confidence in Her Majesty's government. So this 14-day period is, if you like, it's unprecedented space. It's never been explored before, so it's not entirely clear.
So there's no precedent
exactly
here,
what happens in it. Yeah. I understand from parliamentary sources today that essentially what would happen is the Prime Minister remains Prime Minister until she resigns as Prime Minister. Now, it is expected that she would get a second bite at the cherry. So Jeremy Corbyn could rant and rave and say, I believe I can command the confidence of this House and I should be called, but he has no means to force that issue. And this is where the Queen is potentially put in a tricky situation. The Queen, obviously, by the letter of the Constitution, gets to appoint prime ministers and ask them to step down. Now, she would be in a tricky position in the sense that she would essentially have to give Theresa May the first go at passing this motion of confidence, and it would look from the outside like that was potentially a partisan decision, especially if Jeremy Corbyn was crowing off scene that actually he needed to go and it was clear Theresa May couldn't command the confidence of the House. But it is thought by very clever parliamentary boffins that the Prime Minister would get the first go and the Queen would have to allow that, therefore putting the Queen in a potentially tricky situation. She would be thinking, well, I have to do this, I have no choice.
Could not the Speaker do this?
I've been told that no. I've been told that actually the Speaker is not doesn't have a huge amount of power in this strange 14-day scenario.
Okay.
And actually that what essentially happens is the Prime Minister has a go, or what could happen is, let's say, the Prime Minister could recommend to the Queen that, I don't know, David Lidington form a government. And that way there is precedent for that the Queen, the monarch, can listen to the recommendation of an outgoing Prime Minister. But it is not clear that Jeremy Corbyn, although he might scream and shout, that he could actually force a confidence motion in his favour. Then obviously you get into the tricky situation of if that confidence motion is lost by the government, what happens then? Now, again, we're in uncharted waters, but parliamentary boffins tell me that actually what would then happen if it's lost a second time is you've got to go to a general election.
Right, okay, that's the sort of easy bit, but the procedure of this, as you say, new legislation came in 2011, totally there is no precedent for any of this at all. LBC's Matthew Thompson, thank you for that. Folks, I wish it was simpler, but that's the way it is. That's the way the legislation was drafted. Now, on personal ratings, a Sky Data poll today suggests that 42% of the public think that Mrs May would be more competent to lead the country than Corbyn, who only gets 22%. But let me ask the question of both Corbyn and May, but indeed of both the Labour and Conservative parties. Who do you have the most confidence in? 0345 6060 973. Maybe you think Corbyn couldn't do worse than May. Text to 84850. Or maybe you're feeling like me and you don't actually have confidence in any of them in these circumstances, in which case tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC, and of course you can watch us on Facebook and comment there too. Liz on Facebook says neither of them, thank you. Liz, I am with you. Let's go to Mike in Newham. Mike, good evening to you.
Hey, Nigel, how's it going?
Well, I mean, every day seems to get more twisted and convoluted, but hey, here we are, and the Labour Party may well, and from the sounds of it probably will, get this motion of no confidence in the government there before Parliament next week. Who would you have most confidence in?
Corbyn, 100%, yeah.
Okay, tell me why.
Why? Because he's putting forward a set of policies that includes renationalisation of the railways, investing in public services.
Which, of course, you couldn't do as an EU member.
Do you know what? I voted Remain, but I'm quite sceptical of it. I think the laws are quite ambiguous.
Well, not really. Directive 91444 states that rail, track and operating companies have to be separate. European directive.
Yeah, do you know what? I do agree to an extent. One of the arguments I've heard against it is that because we're a big enough country and we've got we're not like Greece, we could actually maybe fight them on that terms and maybe, bend the rules slightly.
But this raises, Mike, a bigger question, doesn't it? I mean, you've got confidence in Corbyn, and fine. But I want to put this to you, Mike. Corbyn's been a leaver for the last 34 years of his parliamentary career, in charge of a parliamentary party who are Remainers. I mean, which direction would he take?
I think what I want him to do is take ahead, basically go into the negotiations and basically make it clear that we want to invest, have an industrial policy basically, and be able to renationalise the railways. That's the red lines for me, to be honest. I don't really care about... Are
you prepared, Mike, as a Remainer, are you prepared to leave the customs union and a single market in order to achieve those goals?
Yeah. And if it means having a new customs agreement, which is basically saying, look, we want to keep the same tariffs, we want to keep the same... because, the Corbyn, the Labour position, my understanding, is that we don't want to lead the EU to deregulate our standards. We want to keep the same standards and all the same things, but we
Isn't the problem, Mike, the Labour position's all over the shop?
It's been made out it is, but it's actually been quite consistent for the past, since conference and since before that as well.
Well, that's your view, Mike. I think it's a little bit more nuanced than that, but thank you. Cameron in Gloucester is a new caller. Good evening, Cameron.
Mr. Farage, how are you doing?
I'm well. So, is it to be Theresa all the way, or could Corbyn and the Labour Party do a better job?
To be honest, I have no faith in a man that wears a cagoule to Remembrance Day, so I can't get behind Farage.
Sorry, I wouldn't do that.
No, you're a good bloke, it's fine. And Theresa May, I think it's the making of her own inability to get behind what the public wanted. Okay, she's a Remainer, but the Democratic vote outlined that there is a leave requirement, and unless you get behind that, or you install people that are going to support you in that, and no matter what you believe, you're going to be going up against...
So you would trust, Cameron, with or without Theresa May, because who knows, maybe those 48 letters are in, maybe she'll walk away, who's to say? With or without Theresa May, you would rather trust the Conservatives to be in government than the Labour Party?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. And, I'm a Tory voter since I've been eligible to vote, but... unfortunately, within the Tory party and within politics in general, there's probably only one or two people I trust to actually do what they say they're doing. You're one of them. There's one or two others I would say yes to get behind. But within the Tories, unless those who shout the loudest get behind what they want to do, as in the likes of Boris and Jacob Rees-Mogg, we're in a pretty difficult position. And within Labour, my word, who are you going to put in there? I mean, Keir Starmer seems all right, but what do you want? Diane Abbott doing the numbers? No, thanks.
Well, I do get that. Cameron, thank you. Well, there'll be our split opinions. Mike thinking that maybe Labour do a better job. Cameron thinking the Conservatives. I'm not getting any great enthusiasm on your messages. Pauline says, I have no confidence in T. May or Corbyn, both as bad as each other. Pauline, I think more and more of us are feeling that way. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 6:15, and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
Theresa May is meeting key EU officials in Brussels for more talks on the Northern Ireland backstop, as Labour's shadow Brexit spokesperson tells LBC the party's likely to table a vote of no confidence in the government before Christmas. A convicted paedophile will serve at least 36 years in jail for murdering 2 schoolgirls in Brighton in 1986. Former England footballer Paul Gascoigne is due before Teesside Crown Court next month, accused of sexually assaulting a woman on a train. LBC weather: heavy rain spreading into the west and Wales tonight, cloudy elsewhere with some frost across eastern parts, a low of 4 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm J-Louise Knight, and the Essex stretch of the M25 is slow clockwise in patches towards 29 for the A127. It's following an accident which is now on the hard shoulder. The Surrey stretch, though, still very slow anti-clockwise from Wisley at 10 to Reigate at 8, where a lorry is having a tyre change. In East London, the A12 is solid northbound from Bow to the Lee interchange after an accident which has gone. And the North East London and the North Circular, very slow southbound from the Charlie Brown's roundabout to the Redbridge roundabout after an accident. It's just been cleared to the hard shoulder, though. And in the West Midlands, the M42 remains partly blocked northbound by a lorry fire after junction 6 for Birmingham Airport.
This is LBC.
Andre Rieu's new album, Romantic Moments 2. Masterpieces chosen by Andre with his heart. 16 of the greatest romantic songs now on this album. The perfect gift for the one you love. Romantic Moments 2 is available now.
Merry Christmas. It's a phrase you'll hear a lot this time of year. But Christmas is not always happy, particularly for men involved in a divorce they didn't choose. Meanwhile, they await the outcome in someone else's home this Christmas. These men need more than the help of a good Cordell & Cordell lawyer. They need the hope and encouragement of a good friend. If I've described someone that you count among your friends, be sure to remember him in this season. Visit cordellcordell.co.uk. Cordell & Cordell, a partner men can count on.
If you're expecting unexpected guests this Christmas, pop down to Tesco, because chilled party food is 3 for the price of 2. That's everything from duck spring rolls to Tesco finest tempura prawns. So you'll be prepared for everything and everyone. However you do Christmas, everyone's welcome at Tesco. Cheapest item free, selected stores while stocks last, ends 1st of January.
Constipation relief has me singing with glee.
Strutting my stuff for the whole world to see.
Senecot Max, help me feel free.
Natural Senna.
Double strength
Helped us back to normality.
It's how
Wonderfully
regular life could be.
Senecot Max Strength is twice the strength of Senecot tablets. For short-term occasional use, always read the label.
Drivers, this should raise a smile. When you're out driving this winter, it's important to know that you can trust your tyres and brakes to keep you safe. That's why at QuickFit, we'll check them both for free. For peace of mind, book online or head down to your local QuickFit today and drive away happy, whatever the weather.
The world's biggest snowman was 122 feet tall. That must have been some puddle when it melted. For a snowman, that's big. But it's not Euro Millions big. This Tuesday, it's a cool £68 million jackpot. Euro Millions, amazing starts here.
Estimated jackpot rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag #FarageOnLBC.
What was going to be the most significant vote in Parliament, probably for over 75 years. But remember, yesterday morning, the vote was pulled, and we've learnt from several sources this afternoon that she told the European Commission she was going to pull the vote on Sunday, and then told her own cabinet on Monday. So at least she recognises who the real bosses are, I guess. And she's off now on this mercy mission. She's been in the Netherlands, she's been in Berlin meeting with Germans, she's now in Brussels, and she's running around Europe, in my view, like a headless chicken. I can't see her achieving anything. I tell you what, European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker, earlier on today, could not have been clearer about this mission. And remember what she told the Commons. She was off to seek assurances and reassurances. Well, listen to this.
The deal we have achieved is the best deal possible. It's the only deal possible. And so we cannot...
They love it.
There is no room whatsoever for renegotiation.
I think that's the Eurovision Song Contest equivalent of nil point. She is not going to achieve a single thing. She may come out of Thursday night, Friday morning, with a small written protocol and a nice form of words. Legally, they are not going to reopen that document because the European institutions have got us where they want us. They've got the British government in real trouble. And, of course, they're working and hoping and wanting a second referendum because they think we will change our minds. And I have to say, I'm now of the view I can't even see this being put to Parliament next week. I just don't think she'll do it. If she's pulled it once because she thinks she'll lose by a lot, well, she's still going to lose by a huge amount because she's going to gain nothing. And that's where really, Jenny Chapman, Shadow Brexit Minister, coming on with Eddie Mair earlier on saying that the Labour Party are pushing next week to have a vote of no confidence in the government, I think it does come into play. So which side do you have most confidence in? Polls today through the Sky Data poll suggesting that actually still, despite everything, there's a lot more confidence in Theresa May than there is in Jeremy Corbyn. Michelle in Milton Keynes is a new caller to the show. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, Nigel.
Good evening. So who has your trust and confidence, Michelle, to sort this out?
Well, oh my God, well, it's certainly not Theresa May and the current government. I'm absolutely shocked flabbergasted by the complete state of the country. It's ridiculous. She has no confidence in her own team. You can't trust her with a barge pole. She's a complete liar. We want her out. Get us.
Okay, so you're a Corbyn fan then, Michelle?
Oh, gosh, no, far from it. Gosh, I mean, look at what he was wearing on you know.
Tell me, you're the second caller tonight to mention this. So the bright red tie and the sort of cagoule or whatever it was.
No.
That sent the wrong message, yeah?
He does not represent our country at all, in no shape or form. What we need is a strong Brexiteer that believes in Brexit, and I think they need to be given another chance to go negotiate a new deal. If they can't negotiate a new deal, we leave on WTO, and that is it. And only at that time would I even then contemplate, well, okay, we've given it a good chance, we've given it our best, maybe remaining is the right place to be. But as it is at the moment, we've had Theresa May, a Remainer, who has no ambition to leave at all whatsoever. So let's go out there, tell the Junker Lumpers exactly where to go and tell them they can't have what they want.
Maybe, Michelle, maybe Corbyn could surprise you. Maybe he could rise to the occasion and impress you.
He hasn't impressed me so far with anything he's said or done. So
he might get a new coat, you know, he might clean his shoes.
Well,
I mean, you might like him then.
That's really not going to cut the deal, is it? Let's face it.
I tried.
Yeah, Dominic Raab or even Boris. And I know there are people heavily criticise Boris, but then you look at Donald Trump. He may not have been in politics before. He's a good business leader. He knows how to negotiate. And we just need to get hard with them. We're a good country. We can do it on our own. We do not need to be in the EU.
Michelle,
and we need to start talking about the positives of WTO.
Michelle, I agree with you, and the positives of being an independent, self-governing nation. Thank you, Michelle, for your call. Terry says on Twitter, the next 2 weeks is Jeremy Corbyn's chance to show he can lead the country. Well, Nigel, I've been a Conservative voter, but I cannot stand May and do not think the modern Conservative Party is actually Conservative, says Ben in Portsmouth. But Ben not saying he thinks that Corbyn would do a better job. Others suggesting that maybe, Marcus says, JRM, Rees-Mogg, is the only one who can save Brexit and the Tories. Well, I'm not sure he's going to get the chance, but you never know in this febrile situation. Down to Sidcup to speak to Robert, a new caller. Good evening, Robert.
Oh, good evening, Nigel. I hope things are well with you.
Well, they're busy, Robert, I'll tell you that. They're not boring. But tell me, you know, the polls suggest that on the personalities, it's 42% think that Mrs May would do a better job. It's 22% suggest that Corbyn would do a better job, with a whopping 36% saying neither.
The thing is, with Corbyn, I'm not a Corbyn fan by any stretch of the imagination, but if he boxes clever and he actually stands to his principles of a Labour Party member, proper Labour Party, like the Tony Benn and the Peter Shaws of this world.
Yeah, the old Eurosceptics, yeah?
Yeah, he will walk into number 10 next election, because I cannot see, if he delivers Brexit the way the people want and not try to go around the corners like Mrs May's doing and try to hide things and not deliver what the people want, he will walk in, but I don't think he's strong enough character to do it. He's too scared of upsetting his party, just like Mrs May was.
Robert, if you were a hardline Conservative Eurosceptic and you absolutely believe we should leave the institutions, not be part of it, not be giving away all this money, if Jeremy Corbyn came up with a proposal like that, and I don't think I'm not sure the Parliamentary Party would allow him to, but if they did, could you really switch to Jeremy Corbyn, given his views on taxation and much else?
No. That's me being honest. No, I couldn't. But the annoying thing is, with the Conservative Party, it's there for the taking. All they need is a Spartacus to put their hands up. I'm Spartacus, follow me.
Yeah.
But there's no one there to do it. Well, there is, but they seem to be scared. I don't know what they're scared of.
Yeah. You know, we keep saying this with Boris, don't we? Boris saying it's all awful, it's dreadful, the Prime Minister's betraying the country, but we must support the Prime Minister. It doesn't make any sense. Robert, you're a star. Thank you very much indeed for calling. Nigel, it would be a Labour SNP coalition, so you should be asking the question, do you trust May or Sturgeon to deliver Brexit? says Chris in Darlington. Well, Chris, that further adds, doesn't it, to Corbyn's potential problem, that even if he still in his heart is a Leaver, and I just don't know the answer to that, you're quite right, he'd be relying on the 35 SNP MPs. We're up to the borders, to Berwick-upon-Tweed, to speak to Kieran. Good evening, Kieran.
Good evening, Nigel. How are you?
So come on, tell me, Kieran, is there somebody that you really believe can do this properly?
Well, let's be honest here. Everyone's scared to death of Labour getting in, period. I mean, I work in the property development sector with solicitors, bankers, and everyone's scared. If they get in, I mean, they're not going to go to destroy Brexit. I mean, they'll revoke Article 50, I'm guessing, and tear it up. We've heard in the news recently that it can be done. So,
the European Court, yes. I mean, there've been judgments on this, haven't there, saying that if we want to do it, we can do it. Which, I have to say, Kieran, strikes me as being an odd thing for them to say, because the Italians, Salvini could just trigger Article 50, scare the life out of them, and then revoke it. But, yeah, that could happen. So Kieran, you basically think Labour are heading down the route of becoming a full Remain party?
Yeah, look, I think it's an excuse. I mean, even for Theresa May, look, God bless her, she's gone out there and tried to do the best she can do. I don't think she's done good enough at all. I mean, I wish UKIP were in there to do it. I backed the Leave campaign. I hoped we would, and I hoped Boris went in, but he didn't, and Gove disappeared, and everyone sort of, just sort of went, they just jumped on the bandwagon and disappeared, and then Theresa May, who was a Remainer, is in charge. It's crazy. I mean, look, the lesser of two evils is Theresa, and she is, you can see she's working hard, but unfortunately she didn't come back with anything decent. I think
Kieran,
we need to leave.
I was told tens of thousands of hours of negotiation. Yeah, but bad negotiation in my view. Kieran, thank you. Down to Croydon to ask Nick his view. Good evening, Nick.
Hello, Nigel. I'm deeply concerned that we won't actually leave the EU. I don't think there's any kind of wish in Parliament for us to pass any bill that actually involves us leaving, and I include wings of both the Tory party and the Labour Party for just ignoring.
Well, Nick, against your point, there is of course an EU referendum act that has passed, and according to current legislation, we are leaving on March the 29th. So Parliament did pass that. But you're right, with every month that goes by, they become less and less keen.
I'm aware of that, of the leaving under the under no deal. I just got the feel that somehow they'll wangle it by a deal or an amendment somehow to change that, revoke that somehow.
Well, they may well do, Nick. They may well do. I who knows where we're going. So, Nick, do you basically have confidence in no one right at the moment?
Well, no, I just don't think. Yeah, I don't think Parliament in total wants us to leave in total, and I think Theresa May has got an impossible job.
Well, she's got a difficult job, but maybe, Nick, she's made it even harder for herself by signing up to that backstop idea on the 8th of December last year. Nick, I thank you. In a moment, I'll talk about a former Prime Minister who today is suggesting we just get rid of Article 50 and stay in the European Union. It made my blood boil when I heard it earlier, but for now, you're listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. It's 6:30 and time for the news with Lisa Aziz.
Theresa May's told reporters in Brussels she's found a shared determination in her talks today with EU leaders and officials in Holland, Germany and Belgium to address the issue of the Brexit backstop problem. But European Council President Donald Tusk tweeted, "The question is how to help so she can bring her deal back to the Commons by the 21st of January." While Labour's shadow Brexit spokesperson has told LBC the party's likely to table a vote of no confidence in the government before Christmas. A convicted paedophile will serve at least 36 years in jail for murdering 2 schoolgirls in Brighton 32 years ago. 52-year-old Russell Bishop was originally cleared of killing Nicola Fellows and Karen Hadaway in 1986. He faced a retrial after new DNA evidence. A man's being questioned after being tasered near Parliament. Met Police say he'll have a mental health assessment after he was arrested at lunchtime. LBC weather, heavy rain spreading into the west and Wales tonight. Cloudy elsewhere with some frost over eastern parts, a low of 4 degrees.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Weekday mornings from 7. LBC.
Here now, though, from Andrea Leadsom, of course, leader of the House of Commons and Conservative MP for South Northamptonshire. Prime Minister then is going around Europe to try and get some extra room, although it seems the door is firmly bolted. Again, just delaying the inevitable, isn't she?
No, I don't think she is. As the Prime Minister made clear, it was not going to get through the House in its current state.
We all knew, my cat knew. Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Weekday mornings from 7. LBC.
It's time. Time to join the millions of people that meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. With stunning HD video, crisp audio, and instant wireless sharing across any mobile, tablet, or desktop device. But the best thing about Zoom? It just works. So ditch the distractions, join the movement, and meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. Visit zoom.us to set up your free account today. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
Glasses for dogs, an alarm clock on wheels, a fork and knife rolled into one. Surprisingly, all successful business ideas. Office Outlet is obsessed with supporting businesses and has everything you need to start and grow your idea. And if you enter the Office Outlet Big Ideas Fund competition, you could win 6 months office space, one-to-one mentoring, £5,000 cash and more. To apply, visit officeoutletbif.com. Office Outlet Big Ideas Fund. Create something special.
Okay, keys, handbag, and off to work I go. You're not going anywhere, Jane. Why? Who are you? I'm your sore throat. And I'm your dry cough. Two of you? Yes. I'm awful. I'm not awful. Shut up, throat. Nobody likes a cough. Nobody likes a sore throat. Stop, please.
Relieve the nightmare cough with dual-action Lemsip Cough for dry cough and sore throat oral solution. Lemsip Cough, there for you. Only you. Always read the label.
Muscular pain can last all day and night. Ouch! And Eurofen's new pain relief can do the same. Introducing the UK's only clinically proven 24-hour ibuprofen patch. It delivers ibuprofen directly to the site of pain for all day and all night pain relief. Nurofen Joint and Muscular Pain Relief Medicated Plaster contains ibuprofen for short-term pain relief of muscle strains and sprains close to the joint of upper or lower limb. Always read the label.
Daddy!
When a child loses a toy, it can feel like the end of the world. So imagine how it feels for a child to lose their childhood. Right now, in the world's poorest communities, children are in danger of becoming enslaved as labourers, soldiers, and even brides. Sponsor a child with World Vision and you'll help a community keep its children safe. Find out more at worldvision.org.uk/childhood. Childhood is sacred. Help us protect it.
Someone's knocking at the door.
Winning postcodes are announced every single day with People's Postcode Lottery. And a total of £150 million will be won in 2019. It costs just £10 a month to play in all draws. Sign up before midnight on the 18th of December to play in the January draws at postcodelottery.co.uk. PPL manages lotteries on behalf of good causes. Players must be over 16. Terms and conditions apply. Please play responsibly. Be gamble aware.
Someone's knocking at the door.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Well, another busy day in the carry-on Brexit saga, including Mrs May touring 3 European capitals, House of Commons leader Andrea Leadsom questioning Speaker John Bercow's impartiality on Brexit, the Taoiseach, Mr Varadkar, saying the Republic of Ireland needs to scale up its no-deal contingency plans. And we've also learned that the government has spent £100,000 on Facebook and other social media ads promoting Mrs May's deal. That's right, they're using your money to tell you what a great deal it is. A Labour backbencher was expelled today from the Commons after grabbing the ceremonial mace last night in a protest. And former PM David Cameron has been doorstepped a couple of times, insisting he had no regrets about the referendum, saying he made a promise, and later on in the day saying we needed to stay as close as we could to the European Union. And Mike in Bromley opens up by text another story. He says, I think we should withdraw Brexit completely and start again later rather than be stuck with this train wreck. Well, Mike, there's a former Prime Minister who seems to agree with you. His name is John Major, and he was speaking in Dublin today.
Whether you are a Remainer or a Leaver, no one can welcome chaos. We need to calm the markets.
Oh, yeah.
We need to protect the economic well-being of the British people. We need to protect our national interests. And there is no shred of doubt in my mind that to do so, we now need to revoke Article 50 with immediate effect.
Wow. So there he is, former Prime Minister Major, talking about the markets. He, the man who took us into the exchange rate mechanism, which was a catastrophe that led to the biggest ever year for house repossessions and business bankruptcies, all finished up with that catastrophic day. Remember the markets crashing, and yet Johnny Major has the gall to lecture us and says we should revoke Article 50, cancel Brexit completely. That's what Mike in Bromley thinks too. Well, if we cancelled it, how on earth will we ever get it back on the agenda? It's absolutely disgraceful that we have Blair and Major and all these former PMs behaving as they are, completely laughing at the British people who, in the biggest democratic exercise in the history of our nation, voted for Brexit. But who would do the best job? And particularly if Labour get this motion of confidence tabled next week, which I suspect they probably will. Who would do the best job? Steve in Darlington is a new caller to the show. Welcome, Steve.
Good evening, Nigel.
Good evening. So, come on, Steve. Who's best to do it?
I'm going to suggest someone who has previous views on the difficulties we have with Europe. I'm going to suggest a candidate who can unite the Conservative Party and who may well get us through these negotiations whilst the leadership contest is in the background. And I'm going to suggest Lord Hague.
Lord Hague? Do you mean that chap who sold himself as a Eurosceptic once and then sold out completely and now is a complete lover of the European Union, was opposed to us having a referendum and thinks Mrs May's deal's a good deal? That one, yeah?
Nigel, Lord Hague has written a lot of constructive articles in his Telegraph, and he has, what I can see, is tried to nudge Theresa to encourage her to stick by the voters, see Brexit through, but do it in a constructive manner. He will definitely unite the Conservatives through this.
I don't agree, Steve. He said to them when he became leader, support me, vote for me, I will give you back your country. He got all the Eurosceptics to support them. He then turned completely the other way against them. He was a strong Remainer during that referendum, and he still is.
He has credibility, he has gravitas. I think the people in the cabinet right now, they're struggling to find their voice because Theresa is stamping them down. You see the likes of Amber Rudd, who's a Remainer, sat there miserable on the benches. And you see the people on the...
They all look miserable, Steve, at the moment.
Because they can't find their voice, Nigel, with Theresa stamping them down. Somebody from outside, but within the Conservative Party, help push this through, and I think Lord Hague has the gravitas.
Well, I tell you what, Steve. I will say this about William Hague. He is a superb public speaker. He has a terrific sense of humour. He's great to listen to at an after-dinner speech. He is a brilliant writer. And if anyone wants to read, his books on Wilberforce and Pitt, they are absolute, I promise you, they're masterpieces. And I have no doubt, Steve, he's a very, very intelligent man. But how can another Remainer take over the Conservative Party? It's been a catastrophe with the previous one. But Steve, thank you for your point of view. Tanis says, Kate Hoey for PM if Labour gets in. I'm not sure that would happen. Dominic Raab is the man for Billy in Glasgow. Boris as PM, Mogg as Chancellor. The only way they'll survive as a party. Matt from Chiswick sees the whole thing completely differently. He thinks the Tories are going to get a hard Brexiteer who speaks for the few in this country. Really? Labour need to get rid of Corbyn. Only a good centrist Remainer will go on to win the next election. Matt, you could say that Vince Cable is a good centrist Remainer who lives in a very similar part of London to you, and I don't see the Liberal Democrats doing very well at all. I think all this idea there's some space in the centre of British politics for a new party is absolute Tommy rot. Actually, what's needed is a party that really believes in Brexit, and it could be the Tory party, and it could be the Labour Party if they allowed Corbyn to do it. But of course they won't. Sue says Boris or the Mogster. Roger, I'm with you, Roger. All of the politicians have let us and democracy down, and that's, I think, where we are. Paul is calling from Brecon in mid-Wales. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening. I think May is tied herself to the mast of a sinking ship, and I think the water's reached her bottom lip at the moment and still rising. I think she's a goner, and I think they've got to shed her. They've really got to shed her. And the only way this is going to get out is to have, and they may have to ask for more time, but they have to have a Brexiteer in charge. And by the way, the Labour won't win the no confidence, because a Labour government with a Marxist Chancellor is going to tank the economy at record speed. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous.
So do you think, if push comes to shove, Paul, next week, if push comes to shove, and this motion of no confidence is tabled, which I suspect it probably will be.
I think it will.
Do you think in those circumstances, despite the deal, despite the sellout on Northern Ireland, do you think in those circumstances the DUP still back this government rather than risk moving towards a general election?
Two answers. One is, I think probably they would rather than go to a Corbyn-type government. But secondly, if there was a new leader in the offing, they definitely would. I mean, May has totally... She said no Prime Minister, no British Prime Minister could ever have a situation where there's a border.
I know.
I mean...
Paul, again and again, she said we're leaving the customs union. She said things again and again that she's broken her word on. I don't know how she looks herself in the mirror. Paul, thank you. Casif is calling from Batley in West Yorkshire. Good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. I believe Jeremy Corbyn will do a brilliant job with Brexit.
Do you? Come on, tell me why.
Because he was a Brexiteer, and during the referendum he was blackmailed by the Blairites and the trade unionists, who at that time provided the majority of the Labour Party's funds. Now, after the referendum, the Blairites made their move, tried to get rid of him. That failed. And now Labour Party has 500,000 members, and they provide the majority of the income. So now Jeremy Corbyn will be hopefully negotiate with Brexit, because he said he needs to guard the single
Isn't the problem, Casif, isn't the problem... And by the way, you're quite right. The Blairites did do their best to get rid of him, and he survived. But isn't the problem, Casif, that amongst that very large membership that the Labour Party have built, so many of them seem to be Remainers?
But the majority of the Labour Party constituents voted leave. And the Labour Party line is you can't ignore half the population. So they want to negotiate a customs union with Europe, which will be best for both sides. And best for British businesses, and it'll be best for European businesses.
But isn't that actually rather similar to what Theresa May's trying to do?
Now, she wants to lock us into a backstop which we have no say over. But a customs union, we can both agree on what the rules are. If we don't like the rules, we can change them, but it'll be equal partnership. However, with the EU, what Theresa May is doing, we have no say, there will be a rule taker.
Are you suggesting to me, Casif, that Jeremy Corbyn could negotiate a customs union deal with the EU without the Irish backstop?
Yep. Yes, of course he can.
OK, well, you've got great faith in him. I'm not so sure it'll be that easy, but Casif, thank you for your point of view and for your call. And certainly he has a huge membership, and his strength is with the membership. I mean, he's had over 100 resignations from his front bench since he became leader. It's a very interesting perspective and point of view. On Twitter, Shabazz says, I wanted Boris Johnson to be PM. However, he could have been if he wasn't stabbed in the back by Michael Gove. And I blame the Brexiteers for this mess, for not challenging Theresa May. Shabazz, I said on this show in July, once we saw the Chequers deal, it was clear all of my worst suspicions about the great Brexit betrayal had come to pass. That was the moment to get rid of this Prime Minister. And Boris, Shabazz, don't blame Michael Gove solely. Boris had the chance, with his resignation speech in July, to bring her down and to get us a Brexiteer leader. I was told by people with him, no. Boris couldn't do it. He hadn't got the numbers supporting him. But unless you try, you don't know what the numbers are. And I honestly... I think many of the Tory MP Brexiteers have been really cowardly throughout this process, and May is still there. For the moment, not for much longer, I think. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 6:45, and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
Theresa May has told reporters in Brussels she's found a shared determination in her talks today with EU leaders and officials in Holland, Germany and Belgium to address the issue of the Brexit backstop problem. A convicted paedophile will serve at least 36 years in jail for murdering 2 schoolgirls in Brighton in 1986. Quadrilla have stopped fracking in Lancashire for 18 hours after a series of tremors were recorded at the Preston New Road site this morning. LBC weather, heavy rain spreading into the west and Wales tonight, cloudy elsewhere, a low of 4 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm J-Louise Knight, and the clockwise M25 in Essex is busy from 27 to 29. That's the M11 to the A127. There was an accident, but it's now on the hard shoulder. Still in Essex, and the A13 is struggling eastbound towards an accident near Tilbury. There are queues from the M25. North East London, the North Sector is slow southbound towards the Redbridge roundabout after an accident which has been cleared. And in the West Midlands, the M42 is partly blocked northbound. A lorry has caught fire just before Junction 6 for Birmingham Airport. If you're trying to get to the airport this evening, allow plenty of extra time. And on the trains, Thameslink, Southern and Gatwick Express have delays of half an hour to and from East Croydon.
This is LBC.
Constipation relief has me singing with glee.
Strutting my stuff for the whole world to see.
Senocot Max, help me feel free.
Natural Senna.
Double strength
helped us back to normality.
It's how a
wonderfully
regular life could be.
Senocot Max Strength is twice the strength of Senocot tablets. For short-term occasional use, always read the label.
Someone's knocking at the door.
Winning postcodes are announced every single day with People's Postcode Lottery. And a total of £150 million will be won in 2019. It costs just £10 a month to play in all draws. Sign up before midnight on the 18th of December to play in the January draws at postcodelottery.co.uk. PPL manages lotteries on behalf of good causes. Players must be over 16. Terms and conditions apply. Please play responsibly. Be gamble aware.
Someone's knocking at the door.
It was when Tom, my husband, became terminally ill. Before that, I didn't know much about Marie Curie nurses. But when Alex came through the door at 10 o'clock, it was just like a light had come into the room. For those 5 nights, she did everything. And, you know, she always made Tom laugh. I'll never forget the support from Marie Curie. It lifted us.
The right care means everything to families living with a terminal illness. With your support, Marie Curie nurses can be there for more families like Tom's. Search Marie Curie to learn more.
If you're expecting unexpected guests this Christmas, pop down to Tesco, because chilled party food is 3 for the price of 2. That's everything from duck spring rolls to Tesco finest tempura prawns. So you'll be prepared for everything and everyone. However you do Christmas, everyone's welcome at Tesco. Cheapest item free, selected stores while stocks last, ends 1st of January.
Everyone loves the sounds of Christmas. Jingle bells and sleigh bells ringing. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. And Santa Claus when he comes into town. Make your True Love's Christmas sound even better this year with the gift of digital radio. They'll get all their favourites plus extra digital stations. Check out the latest DAB digital radios in-store or online and look for the digital tick on approved products. It means the radio is future ready.
To find out which stations are available in your area, visit getdigitalradio.com.
Love radio. Give digital.
This Christmas at the perfume shop, we have the perfect gifts for that someone special. Like Boss Bottled Night, half price at only £42.50 for a 200ml while stocks last. Our expert staff will be able to gift wrap your purchase for free and join our rewards club to earn points on every purchase. Only at the perfume shop. Offer ends 13th of December.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Well, a tough couple of days for Theresa May in this Brexit fast, but I suspect it's about to get a lot tougher. It's been made perfectly clear that at this European summit on Thursday, she is not going to get any substantial change to the withdrawal agreement. She's seeking assurances and reassurances. She might get some nice words, but none of them will be legally enforceable. The 48 letters may be in. We don't know. We know the chairman of the 22 committee was seen walking up Downing Street earlier on today. We also know that Labour have made it absolutely clear, they did so with Eddie Mair and LBC earlier this afternoon, that they are doing everything they can to get a motion of confidence tabled before the House of Commons, before, as it was put, Santa arrives. So who best to lead the country? And despite the difficulties, though, that Mrs May has been in herself, you know, a Sky data poll suggests that 42% think she's still the best person to do it, compared with 22% who think Mr Corbyn. 36% simply don't seem to have confidence in either of them. I'm off to Mark in Derbyshire, my next caller. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Nigel. How are you?
I am well.
Sorry, just very quickly, I got into the car to hear you snorting and sniggering over John Major.
I wasn't sniggering. I wasn't sniggering.
You were snorting. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and do you not think that it's an act of gross disrespect to a man who's had to put up with people conniving behind him for a great deal of time, and yet still managed to get us an opt-out in Maastricht, and still managed to keep us... he actually was the architect of the Good Friday Agreement, and he conducted himself with utmost dignity. And when you said about him presiding over the bankruptcies, I actually was one of those people who suffered a bankruptcy during that time. I think that there's a great deal more to do with some of the people in his cabinet. And I think as a person who rewrites history, as you do, Nigel, by the way, Nigel, one quick question. Did you actually, before the referendum, say if you've nearly won it but narrowly lost it, that you campaign again? Did you actually say that?
No, I said some would be unreconciled. It may be 20 years, though, before we got another referendum. Mark, we joined the exchange rate mechanism in October 1990. The man that took us in was the Chancellor of the Exchequer, John Major. Within a month, Thatcher was toppled. He became the Prime Minister. His first speech, he said he wanted Britain to be at the heart of Europe. Well, with the exchange rate mechanism, he put us into something that was the precursor of us joining what became the euro. It was a disaster.
He didn't do it as a dictator. He did it as a cabinet government.
But hang on a second. How dare he talk about the markets when he led to one of the most dramatic market crashes and vast amounts of our reserves being spent? All I'm saying is, when it comes to European integration, his record is pretty bad, Mark.
Well, Nigel, I think when it comes to European integration, his record is considerably better than you say. I think you put your point strongly. I do, however, think that leaving aside the fors and against, I think your approach to that, frankly, was undignified.
All right. Let me ask you this, Mark.
Yes.
Former Prime Minister.
By the way, I'm a Labour supporter, by the way.
Okay.
So I'm not.
No. Well, you're just trying to be objective about Mr. Major.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Which is fine. But let me ask you this, Mark.
Yeah.
Is it actually reasonable for a former Prime Minister to say that his response to the greatest exercise in democracy in the history of the United Kingdom is he wants to revoke Article 50 and keep us in the European Union? Is that dignified and reasonable?
I think that there was a point where there was no intellectual argument to that. I do, however, think under the current chaos, and given that we're rushing, I think there may be an argument for at least delaying it.
Right, okay.
Right.
If he'd said he wanted to see it delayed, because we needed a bit more time, I would have hated it, but I could at least have understood the logic of the argument given the mess we're currently in. That is not, Mark, what he said. He said he wanted it revoked, and that was what appalled me.
Well, I understand you're appalling. I think perhaps you put the point better now than when you were scoffing over it, Nigel, and that's all I'm really trying to do.
All right, fair enough, Mark. Fine. I can take criticism, no problem. Thank you for the call. I'm going to head to Kingston and speak to Nicholas. Nicholas, who are the right people to run the country?
Hi, Nigel. Well, my preference, of course, would be you, but second best would be Boris. I think basically we need someone who actually genuinely believes in Brexit and has got a positive, confident vision for the country and to make it a success. Putting Remainers in charge of it was like if we had a vote in 1905, can human beings fly? And 51% said yes, and then they put the people that said no in charge of aeroplane manufacture and design. Of course, it wasn't going to work. Can I ask you a question, Nigel?
Yeah, go on.
Basically, at the time of the Brexit debate and votes, I was at the heart of the British establishment, the civil service, etc., and saw them up close. And I was virtually in a minority of one who was pro-Brexit. The rest, and I'm sure you've experienced this yourself. And what's clear to me is that from then, they will have been scheming and working together with the EU and former prime ministers, etc., to basically choreograph and plan exactly how they were going to undo this. I'm being so close in on things as you are, I'm curious to know what are the next steps they're going to take in this manipulation?
Nicholas, I do believe they're the enemy within. The civil service, certainly the Foreign Office, are not neutral in any way at all. They are massive supporters of the whole European integration project. I know that because, of course, I've spent time with them over the last 20 years in Brussels. Goodness knows what they've got planned next. Maybe John Major gave us a clue today. Maybe they just want to cancel the whole thing and they think the 17.4 million peasants will all give up. Well, I tell you what, Nicholas, another thing coming to them. Nicholas, thank you. And Nicholas thinking Boris might be the right man, but Robert on Facebook says, I've lost confidence with Boris. And I've heard others the last few weeks say they've lost a bit of confidence. Maul on Facebook says, JC Corbyn is the only person to save this country from the cliff edge that you, Nigel Farage and co, have taken to the country. Well, Mile, what we want is independent self-government, to be making our own laws, controlling our own borders, choosing our own destiny. I believe we'll be not just freer, I think we can make ourselves richer too. But hey, let's go to Birmingham and speak to Samuel, a new caller to the show. Good evening, Samuel.
Hiya, mate. How you doing, Nigel? It's great to speak to you.
I'm doing all right. Welcome. Are you a regular LBC listener?
Yeah, well, I've just started tuning in, really, and I think it's a great thing that you actually put yourself forward to answer these questions, and like a lot of people that make some of the big decisions.
Well, we have a go. So, Samuel, come on. Who's best to run this country?
Oh, well, to be honest, Nigel, I think I'm talking to him, especially in this current state. But to be honest, I don't think Corbyn's fit. I mean, I think he has potential to be a good leader. Most of the time he's talking into his hands. Or he's reading a letter from, one of his constituents. It's really, he can't. It's a shame as well because, I actually want to see the British people do well. I mean, and Theresa May, I think her agenda isn't her own. I think that she's very much controlled. I think it's a shame. I think she could potentially be a good woman as well. But really, I think that the EU is just, it's surrounded by a sea of lobbyists, isn't it? Most of the decisions that are made there. People, it's too much power and it's stretched too thin. I mean, the influence, Samuel, of the big business lobby is phenomenal. And I've seen that. I've seen that in my political career. But overall, if we take Corbyn out of it and we take May out of it, which of the two parties do you think would lead us best through Brexit? Oh.
You're not sure, are you? You're not sure?
No,
don't worry. Honestly, don't feel you have to answer that. I'll tell you why. Because there are millions and millions, growing millions of us out there who simply at the moment don't really have confidence in either to fairly deliver the referendum result. Samuel, thank you for your call. Thank you, all of you, for your calls and comments. I'm off to Strasbourg in the morning. I'll be on air with you at 6 o'clock tomorrow. At 10 tonight, it's going to be Tom Swarbrick. But up next this evening, it's Ian Dale.
Thank you.